Sorry, it's been a few weeks, you guys. Dan Schneider, really? Really? Oh, God. This is episode 3, Dirty Blob. So, the plot of this episode, we learn more about, we see more Trip in this episode, or rather, like, Trip gets more to do in this episode, actually. What happens is, they're going to be launching a new game called Dirty Blob, and the character in the game looks a lot like Meth Head SpongeBob in Whatever Happened to SpongeBob. You all know that image. That what the fuck were the animators thinking on that? Really? What the fuck? Anyways, tangent. Moving forward. And Trip is with his tutor that day, who's teaching him in math. So he can't play the game until after he's done with his tutor. So what they do is, he and Kenzie, I believe. No, not Kenzie, Babe. Kenzie's the one with the glasses, the smart one. The nice one. The Carly. Bay is the Sam. So Trip gets Bay to help him send the teacher to her apartment in order to... because making her think it's getting robbed. In order to get rid of her so he can play the game. And then Double G finds out, and he tells Trip, if you make another big mistake, you're on probation, you make another big mistake, you're not only going to be fired from Game Shakers, but you're going to school in Utah. And they want the audience to remember this fact pretty well, because they mention it 3 times. Almost in the exact same way. 3 times. The 4th time, I'll get to that in a bit. So what happens is, they decide, well, they're going to be playing their game. They're playing their game, and, well, actually, they're in school at the science class, and what happens is, Kenzie, there are a few funny gags in this episode. Kenzie finishing not even in 10 seconds before everybody else. That's kind of funny. It's just like, it goes to how smart she is, and it's a pretty quickly done. So after the teacher leaves the room, and the students all alone like an idiot, the teacher leaves them like an idiot, leaves them alone in his class of students all in the room by themselves. You can see where this is going. They're going to screw off and not work. And sure enough, what did they do? The moment he leaves the room, they plug in Babe's iPad or PearPad, whatever you want to call it, and they put on Drake and Josh. Really? They're gonna plug not only your first show you created on Nick. Actually, no. His first show on Nick was the Amanda Show, but that was a sketch show. That's different. You're going to plug a show one of your other shows that's not only infinitely better, but for no friggin' reason other than just to plug it. That is bottom of the barrel right there. And we get a few moments like that in this episode. Like, Hudson gets his pencil stuck in his ear. And not only is it painful to look at him getting with the pencil cut in his friggin' ear, but at the same time, once they get the pencil out, gum is on the end. And you can tell exactly where this is going. The moment they realize, and actually, like, at the same time, Double G is on the screen because he's called to say, tried out the game, I loved it. So he pulls the gum off of the pencil and he puts it in his mouth and eats it. Oh. And so then we get to the central part of the episode. Has Trip and Hudson decide to test out their own version of the game, in which he dresses up in the Dirty Blob mascot, Hudson. Trip ties him up and hangs him in the air, pushes him into a bunch of bins stacked up, and then he goes back and he accidentally hits the computer monitor and knocks it down. And the physical comedy there's okay. And then, sure enough, both the drive and the backup drive are on that, so then they're both fried and the game is gone. Which means the only copy of the game in existence is the copy that they gave Double G. So they have to try and sneak try and make a copy of the game off of Double G's pad in order to be able to restore it and make sure it's ready for launch the next day. And sure enough, that's exactly what they do end up doing. And after a bizarre gag in which they ask why Babe asks why Hudson doesn't just take off the stupid mascot suit, and he says, because I'm not wearing anything underneath. Which, hey Arnold can get away with that. You can't get away with that. So they do end up going to Double G's house, and I wish they'd get rid of this friggin' entourage. I mean, those two guys, god damn it. They're not even regulars. They're recurring, and they... Well, it's just the first 3 episodes. From the looks of things, the fact that they're not recurring regular means they're probably not appearing in every episode of the season. So what happens is they're able to successfully make the copy, but then Double G shows up with the 2 guys. One of them named Bunny. I don't even care to remember. And so now they have to make up an excuse as to why they're there. And actually, it's a funny gag in which in which Trip says, well, actually beforehand, they're thinking they'll just ask Double G to borrow his pad so that they can transfer the game onto their own. But he says, no, he'll get suspicious right away. And he says, pretend I'm my dad and ask me. And so they say, can we borrow your pad, please? Your pair pad, please? And he's like, he goes off in this tirade pretending to be his father about how figuring out what happened and reiterating the consequences once again. And I admit, the way they do it is funny, because just the way Benjamin Flores imitates Cal Mitchell is pretty spot on. So I will give him credit for that, certainly. So when Double G catches them after they've made the copy of the pair pad off the pair pad of the game, they have to make him the excuse that they wrote a song about him and they wanted to show it to him. So he grabs a few people to watch them sing the song in the recording booth, and they have to make it off the top of their heads. Parts of it are bleh. Meh. The other parts, though, I think, actually pretty funny. Benjamin Flores is a rapper, so he kind of has that natural verve to him. And then, Kenzie, when it gets to her part, just the fact that, like, she actually is surprisingly good, better than you would have expected, that makes it funny, in her sense, in her quality. And then, just Hudson acting friggin' insane, and just sprouting complete and total gibberish in his verse. Yeah. And yeah, so they get back, they transfer the game, and so then we find out we find out that, like, Double G's giving Trip a new tutor now, the loud guy who, like, always screams every single word, even when he says he's not screaming every single word. He's the one who's tutoring him, and he's yelling at him in a public place. May I mind you, and he ends up getting an answer right, he asks him a question about arithmetic, or not about arithmetic, about algebra. Trip gets it right, and then like they celebrate, and that's pretty much the end of the episode. This show, it once again, Dan Snyder's just relying on all the tropes he just continues to rely on in order to be able to have a show, pretty much. In order to keep working, in order to make money. How he makes money at the same time. I mean, if I was Nickelodeon, I'd say, okay, this is just iCarly. You're giving us iCarly again with the names changed and the premise sort of switched around. You need to give us something different. Try thinking up an idea of something else and running with that. Like, maybe if he could just make a show about regular kids living regular lives, maybe that might actually work. He also needs to, aside from just relying on the same character tropes, he relies on the same plot tropes as well. Relies on the same plot tropes. I mean, let's look at the tropes for this season. Kids apparently steal something from somebody, and he's demanding payment for it. That's the first episode, pretty much, in a nutshell. Second episode, kid loses something. They try and figure out how to find it again. Third episode, kids destroy something, need to figure out how to fix it or hide the fact that they broke it. We've seen these plots before. I mean, I can't name specific examples right now, but we've seen these plots before. It's pretty freaking obvious. And just, it's like Happy Madison, like I said. They just rely on the same plot devices in order to be able to make money. I mean, I recently watched Grown Ups 2. Grown Ups 2, I don't know if that's, I haven't seen every single one of Adam Sandler's movies, so I don't know if it's his worst. But it's pretty friggin' bottom of the barrel. It has no point to it. It just exists for the purpose of its gags, and its gags are not funny. It has a couple moments here and there, but it's not funny. And this episode, this show, it just had me, and it kept making me ask the question as to why. And I wonder if Hudson is anorexic, because he asks the waitress for the empty mussel shells, mind you, and he starts spraying some stuff on him, and it cuts to another scene right before he is obviously going to start eating them. I'm not getting this. Is there some kind of hidden meaning that this is supposed to have? Because it's just, whatever it is, it's not coming to me. I'm not getting the joke. Granted, the show isn't as insufferable as... This show I wouldn't even call insufferable. It's just meh. Most of it's just meh. And it's not anywhere near as, like, insufferable as Sam and Cat was. But at the same time, Sam and Cat had the misfortune of continuing two franchises that should have died long, long ago. Because, granted, in its first 3 or so seasons, iCarly was really funny. And in its first season, Victorious was really funny. It was when they had to pass over from that point that the shows just stopped caring about what they were trying to do. And it's clear that, with the exception of, say, maybe Benjamin Flores, but definitely Cal Mitchell, they're both trying, in a way. Everybody else here, and maybe the actress who plays Kenzie is trying too. Madison Shipman, I believe is her name. And it, like I said, they're just, everybody else clearly is not taking it seriously. I mean, granted, this is a kids show. You're not really, an actor in the show isn't really meant to take it seriously. So, just basically, there's a certain degree to which you're supposed to take it seriously, I believe. to the point that like you kind of step back, look, and think to yourself, I think this could work. I think this is something I can sell, something that I'm glad to be part of. And then at the same time, you gotta also realize like there are ways in which we can do better. Now, I know an actor really can't judge the material that they're in, but unless they take active part in it behind the scenes. But yeah, there's somebody's got to tell the inside of these things because he's just not getting the point. Several years now, and he's still missing the point. So that's it on this one, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Sorry it's been so long.